bar running along the top of their screen any moment. I do indeed record my classes just like the rest of my colleagues, and you will receive the class in a recap that will take you to a YouTube channel where all of my sessions are recorded so you can follow up at your own time if needed. Other than that, my name is Anuj. I am the field marketing specialist here in Santa Cruz and Monterey County. And hopefully, like the slide that should still be showing says, today we are here talking about creating a holiday marketing campaign. And I went ahead and broke this class into two sessions just to make sure it wasn't overwhelming and you guys didn't have to hear me just talk for an hour. Today, we're going to talk very much about some of the back end work that needs to be done and some of the thought processes you want to be bringing into play when it comes to putting these plans together. And then tomorrow, we'll go into some of the execution for a fake holiday plan we're putting together as a part of this session, or at least kind of the rough edges to give you guys, the goal is to give you guys an idea for something that you can then take and run with to do in your own way. Before we dive into the session itself, I am just going to ask that everybody please remain muted through the entirety of the session. This is my first time teaching the class. We just put it together. My goal is to get everybody out of here inside of 45 minutes. I'm going to spend about 30 minutes talking and going through the session. And then at the end, I will open us up for questions. If you are worried about forgetting your question, feel free to open up the chat bar that is at the top of your Microsoft Teams app. It will open up a chat window that is on either side of my head, and you can type your question in there. Otherwise, at the end of the session, I will open up the floor and give you guys a chance to unmute yourselves and dive in, and we can open up for any kind of discussion that you have about part one. With all that being said, let's go ahead and dive into our session. So December is typically a quiet month for our real estate agents and in the industry, but given the current environment that we all find ourselves in, and specifically in the market that I'm in, we've noticed a lot of aggressive trends from buyers that are, for various reasons, relocating to an area that gives them a little bit more space, a little bit more acreage, and kind of gets everyone out of the congested cities that are to the north of us. I don't know how that applies to all markets across the board, but the general thinking of the industry is this is the time, this quarter is generally the time when you're redeveloping your business and marketing plans for the following year. And for this class's purposes, we're talking about a way to make sure that you develop a strategy to stay in front of your consumer in a way that is memorable and resonates with them. There's a little quote I have at the bottom of this slide that I got from a seminar that I was in that I think really is the driving point of this whole session. It is that transactions alone do not create memorable brands, boost loyalty, or drive long-term growth. It is these extra steps that we're going to be talking about in something like this that will endear consumers to your brand, bring in new ones, and more importantly, make you memorable enough that you can sustain business from a client through referrals. So if you've done any kind of session with me before, or if you're in my region, you hear me talk a lot about workflow. And that's where today's session really get started from. So there's basically a small lecture series that I put together, and I'm going to email you guys a ton of this in notes, as well as a link to this video again, and a handful of the resources that I'm going to talk about in regards to the planning for a campaign. Now, we're using this specifically as a holiday campaign example, but we've kind of structured this to very much get your gears turning in each of your heads individually about how can I leverage this concept to my larger marketing plan to really reinforce the goals I've set in my business plan. Now, if all of that is new to you in that whole sentence, there's a lot of things that you didn't quite realize that you need to be working on, or that you haven't really started working on, but you've always thought about, this is the time to get in touch with your manager, get in touch with your local field marketing specialist. In my region, you guys can reach out to me. Always feel free. Anybody attending the class can feel free to send me any questions. But the goal here is you want to build a plan for your business like any other business plan would be. And then your marketing plan, because based on how this business operates as a sales industry where you are the product that we're advertising, you need to make sure that all of the expenses paid into that, which would be marketing, because the fixed operating costs are very much locked to what you pay to the company. Everything else is an expenditure that falls into some kind of bucket, whether we're driving awareness about your brand and business, or we're trying to generate a lead advertising campaign through some kind of extended program. This is something that it falls into the driving awareness about your brand section, along with the secondary part of the campaign, which gives you a follow-up, which can be a lead generating aspect. And what you can see here is we've got, what we're talking about is a physical and digital campaign. We're going to plan on having mailers go out. Now, you can do this one of two ways, but the sorting of your contacts has to be done in both ways for the long term, because what we're talking about here is building a master list that you can just add to and start using year over year for your business, because consistency is key. Any type of marketing that you're doing, that's the golden word. And what you want to do is build a plan for yourself that does all of the heavy lifting up front, so that year over year, it's something that just gets easier and easier to do. And all you have to do, like I said, is add new consumers to it. So the first thing you want to do is CRM. If your CRM isn't built up to what it should be, now's the time to calendar out for yourself what needs to get done. Do I need to build up my CRM? Do I need to make sure I assess all of the contact details that I have? If you've already got that stuff done, what we want to do is thinking about grouping your contacts in your CRM in two ways. I'm going to jump into CB Desk real quick, which I don't think you guys can see. So give me one moment here to stop sharing my screen and reshare. All right, so what we should be looking at is CB Desk. When you're in here, I'm going to use InTouch as my CRM example, because that's the one that is provided as a part of your ASP, and it's the one I happen to be using. What we're talking about with grouping here is when you go into your contacts, specifically on the physical side, we want to look at what contacts that you have physical addresses for. And you can always double check by clicking on a specific contact, and you can look at their properties and see what current mailing address you have for them. You can edit or add addresses by clicking on the buttons labeled as such. But when you're in here, you want to think about creating groups to best reach out to your consumers in relevant ways. Now, the two ways for this holiday campaign you want to think about are creating groups for holidays themselves. So if you've got if you happen to have knowledge of which of your consumers celebrate which holiday. So let's say I know that these clients celebrate Christmas, these clients all celebrate Hanukkah, these clients celebrate Kwanzaa, these clients are going to get a non-denominational card, right? The more you can think about personalizing that list, the better it's going to be for that, endearing portion of the brand. So if you don't have that information really available, right, there's nothing wrong with setting up a generic non-denominational holiday card to go out to everybody. But what we're talking about is really that extra step that elevates a good brand from a great brand in this industry. Because again, the product that we are advertising is you, the agent. What do you provide to your consumer? And I always like to think of it as the Janet Jackson song, "What have you done for me lately?" Your consumer is constantly going to think that. And this is a great way to, again, stay in front of them in a way that's warm, but can be followed up with a market relevant way to make sure that you remind them of not only your connection to the community and to your sphere, but your knowledge base of the region itself. So not to jump ahead, but what we're talking about here is first we want to group those contacts, right? And like I said, if you can by holiday, because we're going to go, if we jump back into CB Desk, which I have open right here. So let's say I've got, contacts grouped by holiday as well as by geographic location, because I know in my marketing plan in Q1, when I went over with my FMS and my business, as part of my business plan, I'm going to be targeting Monterey City proper in Q1, right? Because I want to make sure my goal is to get one transaction per month. And I did really well in 2019 and 2020 in Monterey. So that was my strongest market. So what I want to do is make sure I really kick off. It's a brand new decade, and I've got all of these new facets I've been working on that I've been educating myself with in 2020. So I really want to kick off strong there. So we're going to make sure we group everybody that we have geographically in Monterey in your CRM to a specific group for follow-up purposes, as well as if you've got address. I mean, we're sending holiday cards, so you've got everybody in that system already with mailing addresses. Now, if we can subgroup everybody that was in, so of all of the Christmas people, how many live in, again, using my region as example, how many live in Salinas, how many live in Prunedale, how many live in Santa Cruz, how many live in Aptos. The better we can organize that up front, it means that when you're looking at my slide, when we make that follow-up postcard that goes out in January that talks about market conditions, we're not doing something that's really broad in regards to, tri-county or statewide numbers. What we're talking about is your county. And as a reminder, here, this is what I'm here for. I know you got my Christmas card, and I just wanted to follow up, and etc. Right? We're going to get into some of the more detailed parts of that later. But this is the thought process you want to have when it comes to how you are going to group your consumers. And once those consumers are grouped, you want to decide, all right, where are we getting these physical cards? And like I said, it could be the same mentality whether you're doing a generic one or we're grouping them all by holidays. Let's say it's generic because you're sending these to a farm, and we're going to send the same card to all of these consumers with the goal of staying top of mind with them so I can follow up in the following month and remind them that here's what's going on in your market. And if you scan this QR code, it'll take you to my following social platforms where you can follow me, or to a video that we've created. Again, whatever your marketing plan has built into it for that month, this is where we can make sure. Again, if you've been in any of my classes, we talk about the importance of cyclical marketing. Everything should have a purpose. You don't put out a piece of marketing for the sake of putting it out. These mailers are being put out for the purpose of staying top of mind with your consumers, so it's not random when they get that follow-up a month later, reminding them about their marketing conditions and asking them to visit your website or visit your social channel to check out the latest video that has you talking about these market conditions. So you can find out more detail, and if you'd like to get more information, reach out to me and we can talk about your information or your situation specifically, right? Build in these call to actions and build in that goal. The goal of every marketing plan should be to drive consumers back to the hub that is your website. Something like a social media channel or a holiday campaign are arms of that marketing plan with the goal of trickling everybody back to the website where there's 1,000,001 ways to sign up for a mailing list and get captured into your CRM. But I digress. Now that we have an idea of what we're doing and how people are being sorted, step 2 is to find out, what do we want to use? Tons of great opportunities in here. Companies like Deluxe, Corefact, there's a handful of print options you can use. I like Corfact, and I'm just going to use them for this example because I've used them in the past. If your CB desk is messy like mine is, you can always type what you're looking for and get right to it. Again, I'm just using this as an example. For example's sake, a lot of these things will operate in the same way. Just going to zoom in here to make it a little easier to see. Now, what we're looking at, first and foremost, we've got your contacts that were organized into appropriate groups in your CRM. So let's open up one of these groups, for example. And the reason we did that is because all of the addresses are already in here. And all we have to do now is, I don't, again, not all of these have addresses, but if you have addresses, you can go ahead and get the labels right here, or you can export all of these contacts by selecting them all, hitting bulk update. Because that's not what we want. That'll update the contacts. What we want to do is export these. I'm in the wrong place. It's Monday. That happens. We've got our group. So this is the group we want to export, correct? So now we're going to go to export contacts. It's a whole separate section underneath contacts. And we want to go right for that group that we created. In my example, it's going to be that 2020 prospect group, and we can export it, and it will give us a CSV spreadsheet that has all of those contacts on it. And what we want to do is, let's say, again, I'm using Corfact as my example. What I want to do is, I know the first things we're sending out is the holiday mailer. So I want to upload the holiday people as they've been sorted first. So you're going to have multiple spreadsheets created. So when we talk about workflow, let's get back to my desktop real quick here. I'm a big fan of creating a folder on your desktop. We're going to right click, create new folder, and we can call it 2020 holiday campaign, because this is what we're starting it in. And then you can create this new folder, and in here is where you are going to save all of these lists that we are going to upload in one place, all of the proofs that you're going to get. Everything associated with the holiday campaign is going to be organized and sub-organized all in one handy-dandy folder to keep you from going insane. And now that we've done that, we're going to go back into our system, and let's say we have exported, my case, it's that 2020 prospect list, but let's say that is all people getting Christmas cards. We can then go into contacts on the print vendor we are going to use, and we're going to hit upload list, because that is going to give us this. To make sure that everything maps properly, you're going to download the CSV template for whomever you're going to be using. You're only going to need to do this once, because what we're going to do is go to that template we've downloaded. You're just going to see how it's laid out. The important part, what we're looking for, is the layout. So it wants a first name, last name, street address, city, state, zip. And then this is what we're caring about: mailing address, city, state, zip. We don't need any of this other info. Unless you have it, right? Again, if you have it, put it in. But this is a holiday mail campaign. All we care about: first name, last name, mailing info. All you will have to do is then take that exported list. We're going to go all, export. And you can open that list you have exported and then copy the appropriate fields. So I've got all of my first names. Okay. Control C or right click, copy, and you just want to migrate them into the appropriate fields on this new list. Oops. I am getting a little bit of lag here because I'm doing a whole ton of things at once with my computer, but you guys get the idea. Once you save this list, right, we've downloaded the Christmas list, Christmas card list. This will get saved as, and this is important, master underscore Xmas holiday because now that this has been done for the first time and you've got everybody put in here that you need, right? Let's say we've got everybody in here. 1, 2, 3. So you get the idea. This gets saved as the master list. Now all you have to do is in Q3 of next year, in 2021, when you're preparing for the following, the upcoming holiday list, you just export new people that you've added to your CRM's Christmas list or holiday list or Kwanzaa list or whatever the case may be for your CRM. And then all you have to do is add those new people to the master list and then upload a new master list for that upcoming holiday. So every holiday, you just keep uploading a new list, and then your contacts will be set. I'm definitely looking like I'm running out of time. So let me make sure I've gotten the important parts for part 1 squared away for everybody. Let's go back to my slides here. All right, so we talked all about like physical idea, right? That's the plan for the physical mailers. You want to organize your contacts by how they'll receive a card. We're going to talk all about choosing everything and execution in day 2. Day 1, right? This is all about planning. Planning. First thing you want to do after everything's been organized, I'm going to send you guys a sample to look like, and I will update all of this to show 21, but I had this built out for 20, and I was sending it out to my agents. What we're looking at is a marketing budget template, right? You guys want to build one of the things out. These are all just samples I put in here, and all the formulas are already built. And I've just put some, random numbers in here. It'll automatically generate graphs, but you need to know what your marketing budget is, so it can work hand in hand with your business plan, so you don't burden your budget by doing this holiday campaign and then all of a sudden you've got nothing left to work with in Q1, right? Make sure you have a plan. Make sure you have, like I said at the beginning, this is built in to work in conjunction with your business plan to build your business and to grow it. You can't do that without being organized in its processes. So just like the workflow for the holiday campaign needs to be planned and organized before we talk about what we're going to buy to execute, like what do the cards look like and where are we posting things socially. First, we want to make sure our budget allocates the plan to work. Otherwise, it can just be a social plan and you can make these audibles as need be. Again, work with your FMS to develop something that works great for your business. But after you've reviewed your budget and you've got your contacts organized, what you want to do is start to review some of the social aspects that'll be going on that calendar, right? So again, holiday oriented, keeping on that part of the focus. What can we post to remind consumers that if you aren't part of this holiday, if you didn't get a holiday card from me and you'd love one, go ahead and register on my website, sign up to be a part of my lists and get my newsletters, and you'll receive this as well. You can also build all of the information that went into that mailer to a e-blast that goes out to your consumers. I send e-blasts out to my agents every Monday and Friday. Those are all built in InTouch. You can do just the same thing and schedule it to go out just around the same time that these cards will be getting in the mail. So all of your consumers still get hit, and utilize things like clients for life, your listing and design concierge packages that you've gotten if you've purchased any of those, or things that you've got out of brand serve that you're getting from the company to, again, leverage your brand and create part of a schedule. And this is also something that I will send to you in the recap. This is a marketing and social media calendar for 2021. It's got all kinds of great resources and links already built in. What you're going to want to do, just like the workflow side of it, right? Prepare yourself. Get all these great little handy dandy assets built in, and then start plugging away. You ideally, a good marketing plan has a quarter built out ahead of time. So you spend, in November, you start building out through December. What does January, February, March look like in the next year? In February through March, you start building out what April, May, June looks like, and so on and so forth. And nothing is set in stone, obviously, but what you get here is a calendared out plan where you can build out, okay, I've got my clients for life, we'll go on this date, and I have sent out holiday cards. I'm going to send this to you. Go ahead and add a tab, build in December 2020, and work all this into your schedule, right? Start putting some of this into action. Figure out if you're going to send a campaign when you're doing that. If you're sending an e-blast, note out what day that e-blast goes out. Note, you'll see things like gardening, swimming. Those are things from the hobby side, because you've also got to advertise you as a bit of a curated personality, right? The things that'll help endear your consumers to your brand. We talked about your connection to a community, your knowledge base, and then a little bit about who you are, that peek behind the curtain of being a real estate agent, and what it's like to work with you. So a consumer already knows what all of this is like before making the decision to reach out to you. You've shown them. I always tell my agents, people hear with their eyes. These are legs of a marketing plan to get someone to the point where they hit your website and they're ready to reach out and talk business, because they can find out about who and what you are everywhere in these campaigns. Now, with the social side of the campaign, is where you want to talk, and you'll see in this slide, and I'm going to send you these slides. They talk about things like, leveraging clients for life. I talk to my agents all the time about, making connections with your community, reaching out to local businesses, and updating that email to not just take what Coldwell Banker is giving you, but making that big we into the me that is your brand. If we're giving away an Amazon gift card, say that's the grand prize, but also I've got two $20 gift cards for two different local businesses that'll go to a selected winner. So make sure you enter the contest to be entered for that, right? Find those little ways to communicate how you are connected to your community that you serve, and so you can drive consumers back to things you've built on your website. I've got an entirely different class that talks about the kind of marketing that goes into that, so I don't want to digress too much, especially because I'm running over. And again, I apologize because this is my first time. I just put this class together, so obviously I need to time block it for like 45 minutes instead of the 30. But you guys get the idea, hopefully, of what I'm talking about, right? We want to send that holiday message and then make sure you've got a way to follow up socially. That postcard could even have a QR code on it that a consumer can scan. It takes them right to your Instagram or right to your Facebook or right to your website, so they can see the latest piece of media that you've created that becomes shareable, right? This stuff is hugely valuable to consumers, especially if it's something that is community related or household related or just fun, because again, this is the time to stay in front of your consumers in a warm way. The business stuff will happen in January. So again, focus on planning out posts. We'll talk about this more in our next session. I'm going to go ahead and open up the floor for some questions, and we'll talk about and pick up from this slide in part 2 tomorrow. I want to thank everybody before I dive into the question side. I'm going to put a link to a survey that you'll also see in the recap. If you got some time, I really appreciate any feedback that you can provide to me. It goes straight to my management team, so I don't see them, but anything that can help me, any kudos or just criticism to help make me a better teacher for you guys and gals, I really appreciate any of that can be offered. I'm going to go ahead and stop sharing my screen and open up the floor to any questions that there are. I see a couple in the chat already. I'm going to go ahead and just drop that survey that I said I was going to post here. And again, feel free to unmute yourself at this time also. It looks like there was a question about part two. Part two will also be linked. I'll put the link to the Sales Pro class in the recap for you. It is 1 p.m. Pacific time. That is correct. Thank you, Monica, for answering that. Any questions that I can answer for you guys? I know I went at this pretty quick. Again, this is the first time I'm running through this class, so thanks for being my guinea pig class to kind of gauge that I probably should slow this down a little bit, maybe stretch it out to 45 minutes. Trying not to keep you guys too much over. But again, any question, feel free to unmute yourself. Feel free to drop in to the chat. Has anybody kind of tried to construct a campaign like this before? And do you kind of get some of the bigger picture things I'm talking about? All of this stuff is just microed down to a holiday campaign, but hopefully your guys' gears are turning in your head about, okay, I can blow this up to a broader, like, what does my marketing look like for Q1 in regards to, like I was talking about geographic targeting, and we'll talk a little bit about that in part 2. But you should always have a focused goal with a campaign and make sure you've got multiple ways of not only following up with that campaign, but of creating ways to add new consumers to it. So just as important as it is to organize and craft what your consumers are going to get for the physical side of it, it's just as important to craft what the messaging will be on the social side and when those will go out and how frequently they will. I promise I'm going to stop talking now. And if anybody has any questions, feel free to loop in. I am going to take the silence as either everyone was a little confused or hopefully everybody gets it. Can you put a flowchart for InTouch, creating groups, exporting, creating custom Excel sheets with only the data needed? Yeah, totally. I can put that in the recap. I'll add that. There's also a ton of great classes in Sales Pro about some of the basics for InTouch that kind of walk through the functionalities of grouping people, kind of the best ways you can do that in regards to business planning. Again, two of the things I always kind of think about are personal contact and geographically. It's always important to have your contacts grouped by geographic regions. I'll put a little quick how-to in the recap, and I'll also link. I've taught a class about this previously. I'll put the link to the recap that you'll get for this class will take you right to my YouTube channel. You can find some InTouch courses on my YouTube channel. So I hope that answers your question. Perfect. Awesome. Well, I hope everyone has a fantastic Monday. Again, please feel free to drop into the survey and provide any comments if you would like. It always does me good to get a call from my manager every now and again saying that, you know, someone gave me a thumbs up about a class. I do appreciate that. Outside of that, I will work on getting your recap to you inside of 30 minutes or less. Otherwise, the class is free. Hope everybody tunes in tomorrow. Same bat time, same bat channel. I'll see you all then. Take care.